Hey, what's up, and welcome back for another Ohio Nerd Toy Hunt. This video we're going to be looking at Toypalooza in preparation of the next Toypalooza happening this weekend as the video comes out on August 8th in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This video is from Toypalooza that happened on March 8th of 2020. Now this was the last toy show that happened before all the shutdowns happened. Absolutely great time had at this show. Highly recommend you go and check it out this weekend, August 8th. At Pittsburgh, PA. It's worth the trip out there. I had an absolute blast on this toy hunt, and I wanted to look through here again in preparation of them finally having another Toypalooza since COVID happened, and we'll go back and look at some of the great items that were there at the last show. So stick around and let's go see what all we can find. This show had it all. It had some Funko Pops, a couple booths of those, and it also had some great vintage pieces. You had some good card Beast Wars here. You have 12 backs. I mean, crazy to think. I love 12 backs. Currently I have a 12 back R2 and 3PO in my collection, but someday I want to finish those out. Has some solid, loose Power of the Force figures there, and some really cool loose G.I. Joes with the card backs. I love the card backs for these vintage figures. They all have such great artwork, be it vintage Star Wars, be it the G.I. Joes, be it Masters of the Universe. Card backs nowadays, they just don't match up. It's crazy how good and how detailed they were, especially the ones that didn't just use a movie image, but used actual artwork. Just the artistry in that is amazing. Here we have the early bird kit, and then we also have a very cool Listen and Fun tripwire. The story with those, if you're unaware, so with the early bird kit with Star Wars, what that is when Star Wars came out back in 1977, the demand for the toys was so high, but Kenner couldn't get the toys out in time for Christmas. So they put out what was called the early bird kit. Now, it was a piece of cardboard and it had a mail away flyer. You would send that away, and then when the toys are ready, they would send that back to you. And then that's what would come in, a little cardboard box, and it came with those 4 figures. You got a Chewie, an R2, a Leia, and a Luke. And then the Listen and Fun tripwire that we showed back there, that is a variant. It came on a card back with a little cassette tape, and it was from G.I. Joe. And it's just a really hard to find variant of tripwire that came with that cassette tape for you to have some Listen and Fun with. Here's a cool figure that Disney probably won't put out again for a long while. We got Hut Slayer Leia. The Black Series figure, it was really good. The knee articulation on it is a little weird how they did the placement. I get that they did it for, so that it has that extra articulation, but to me the joint just looks a little weird. Besides getting absolutely hyped for the next Toypalooza that's happening this weekend, August 8th, another great thing about going back and looking at some of these old videos and the highlights of the toys that we saw there is that just checking out some of these prices. Prices have went crazy here recently, and just to see some of the prices on these things and be like, wow, that was a great deal. Hindsight's definitely 20/20 when it comes to these things, but it's always so cool to go back and just find out what you could have had for a great deal back in the day. Seeing these Masters of the Universe figures right here, they're always so cool to see. It's a very cool toy line, and it just gets me more hyped and wanting to see He-Man Masters of the Universe Revelations on Netflix by Kevin Smith. I have not seen that show yet. I've only heard great things about it. There are definitely people online that complain about it, but for all my close circle of friends, everyone's talking about how great it is. Here we have a nice little modern, loose Star Wars dig bin and some other stuff, sprinkled on in there. I've really been going kind of crazy here recently, building up my own personal collection of loose, modern Star Wars. I really love the vintage, as you guys know, but the modern stuff is really good too. I've really been starting to get some of those pieces that I really like. I know there's people out there who are, die-hard vintage fans, but with the modern figures, that's what I grew up playing for, and so just as you feel if you're die-hard vintage about how it's the best, it's part of the reason you think that, is because you grew up with it. I grew up with these modern toys, the Clone Wars figures, the Legacy collection with the Build-A-Droids, and I really have a special place for those. I love the vintage figures too. I grew up playing with hand-me-down vintage and finding those at flea markets and playing with them, not really knowing what they were or how special they were, but they're definitely a great figure too, so I really think there's definitely room for crossover. If you collect just modern Star Wars, I'd really highly recommend checking out some of the vintage. They have that really unique art style. And if you collect vintage Star Wars, I'd highly suggest if you like the Clone Wars or you like Episode 3, check out either the Clone Wars figures or those, Revenge of the Sith vintage collection figures. Or even if you're a diehard OT fan, some of those vintage collection figures like Ponda Baba or Dr. Evazan, like those figures are very nice. They're so realistic, they're super articulated. Highly recommend that, maybe dip your toes in the water a little bit with those and just see if you like them. Get a couple of them, set up a little display. If you like, leave them on the cards. The vintage collection has that vintage look that you could leave up on the cards. I really recommend, just dip your toes in the water and try out the other side. This was my first time coming to Toypalooza, guys, and I have to say, I was impressed. It was a great show. Worth the trip over. Pittsburgh's not the closest place to go, but it was worth the drive. I went with some buddies. They were set up. I didn't set up. I just came. I helped them. Did a little bit of shopping and filmed for you guys. If you get the chance, I would definitely head on out. Here we have my buddy, the Toxic Slob Retros booth. He and I were there helping out our other buddy, Troy. Sean always brings a good booth when he comes. Just a small but mighty booth this time. He always is bringing those strange, weird, and oddball items out to the toy show. So when you're there, you must check out the Toxic Slob's booth. Here we have the CAS Collectors Archive Services here's booth. I've had several things graded with them. They've always turned out great. They do a very good job. If you're looking to get something graded, highly recommend checking them out. AFA is another big name in there. CAS offers a lot more customizability on that if you want a thing displayed certainly, like a special way. For instance, say you have a loose figure and you want it displayed in front of the card back so it looks like it's carded. Maybe it's a really, really expensive figure to get carded, but you have the card back and you have the loose figure. They can set that up for you so it looks like it's in front of the card like it would have been on the bubble. They also can do special setups where, say you have Orko and you want all the magic tricks displayed above his head, they can do that too. This table here had a crazy setup. They have a flag in the box. They had Eternia, they had Grayskull, they had all the big play sets, they had all the major lines, TMNT, Star Wars, Motu, they had loose, they had carded, they had boxed. I mean, they had a great selection. And that's going to wrap up this Supercut. Don't forget to go check them out this weekend, August 8th, and let them know the Ohio Nerd sent you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and may the Force be with you.